Good morning, PT on Ice crowd. It is Monday. Welcome. My name is Mike Eisenhardt. I am the lead faculty for the APHPT Population Health Division of ICE, and we talk a lot about everything from health promotion and prevention to population health and population health management approaches. As you know, each Monday I try to get on and talk about something that I think connects and begins to help us think about how we can turn our practice health facing. Good morning, Colin. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about the relevance, irrelevance of the Super Bowl, or the Super Game, or whatever we want to call it today, so that we don't get sued. I don't know if they'll attack people on Facebook. But today I'm going to talk about that kind of within that population health framework, within that frame. So let me get the clock started. As you know, I have to keep myself on a strict 15-minute time window, or else I will roll off. So let's get that going. Okay, so to start with, last night was the big game, and I laugh about it a little bit because I don't follow traditional stuff that often anymore. I mean, I have to admit, I am a lowly Dolphins fan. I have been my whole life, and that is not an easy thing to do over the last 11 or 12 years, as Tom Brady and the Patriots have just continued to beat us into a pulp. I was happy to hear that the coach, one of the coaches, the linebacker coach from the Patriots, is going to make his way to Miami. Maybe he'll be the guy who helps us crack the code. I don't know, but the bottom line is that I haven't really followed professional football in a long time, even though I grew up as a football player. It was my favorite sport growing up. I played throughout high school. It was never big enough to go on and play. Beyond that, I sort of satisfied that by playing rugby in college and had a great time. And now I'm a much bigger fan of rugby than I am of professional football. But I think there's a lot we can learn from the NFL. I think there's a lot there, and I think a lot of it actually ties in with things like population health, and not in the sense of how do we get people healthier, but it's in the sense of the dynamics associated with it. And so I want to dive into that a little bit. Now, you could start with the negative. You could say, well, listen, football has become kind of an irrelevant sport. And I do think there's an argument there. I think that everything that we know about head trauma, everything that we know about, what's really becoming a public health concern associated with contact sports and specifically collision sports, obviously it puts a bad light on that particular sport. And I think they've had some fallout. I can't quote you on the stats of that, but it certainly seems that way. Just in kind of general colloquial conversation, it just seems that in general people have sort of backed away from the sport. Now, in fairness, we can't say that they are any worse than other sports. I attended something with my daughter who plays competitive soccer, and we certainly know that girls soccer has as big, if not a bigger problem when it comes to things like concussion and traumatic brain injury in sport. So again, that's something that's there, but it's not, the only thing. So I would say that's a mark maybe against. There's also sort of this idea of, they've obviously gone through some social turmoil over the last year, and that is part of the reason why I want to talk to this a little bit, because there's some social justice undertones associated with the NFL. And obviously last night, if you watched the game, you could see that a little bit. And that obviously connects very closely with things like population health, because we know very clearly that people who have social determinants type issues and risks certainly don't have the health trajectory of those who don't, right? So there is always this underlying justice idea when it comes to overall health and health management of society. So we have to at least consider that, and so that's there. And then of course we've got the other side of it, which is, well, is this really just a bunch of rich people playing a game and making a lot of money to sacrifice their future health? Obviously, beyond the head injury side of things, as health professionals, we should maybe consider that. The idea that, the longevity in a league like this, if you're getting pounded on, isn't very long, and that's because the body just maybe can't take it. And so when we look and see those commercials of the retired NFL players, are they moving well? Are they living a high quality of life in the future? And should we be sort of against that idea of, hey, go out there and beat yourself up and look what it did to you in the future? Now, the other side of the coin is in the relevance of this. And I think that as a business, as a business itself, as a league, we have to sort of draw some information there. And I can't say that I was able to pick up on everything, and I'm certainly not enough of a master in this stuff to be able to say, yeah, I picked up on every little undertone. But there were quite a few there, right? So let's start with one of the narratives. One of the narratives definitely the NFL has mastered is alliance. They have figured this out, and this is huge when it comes to population health overall. The idea of kind of connecting and building that ecosystem. So, we would have wrapped up the first intro course last night, except again, my lack of knowledge of things. I didn't realize it was Super Bowl Sunday until like yesterday morning. And then I said, oh my gosh, guys, I can postpone, the course until tonight, the final discussion. So we did, but we would have wrapped it up. But one of the things that we talk a lot about in the intro course is this idea of building an ecosystem. That is the future of healthcare. The future of healthcare is not isolated professionals who are kind of stuck in their own silo. It's a tight integration. Well, you have to give hats off a little bit to the NFL. I don't know if anyone else noticed this, and I'm pretty sure, I can't say 100%, but I'm pretty sure that when they flashed Roger Goodell or whatever his name is, the commissioner, you could see in his box Jeff Bezos standing right next to him. Right, so the CEO founder of Amazon, right, and there is an alliance there. Amazon Prime and football. I mean, it's connected. We're going to see more of that. And there they were, rubbing elbows. Well, that's brilliant if you're the NFL, right? If you're the NFL and you can make a connection with one of the biggest distribution channels of pretty much all things at this point, including healthcare. In the world, well, that's a smart move on your part, right? If you can leverage what you bring to the table, your skills and knowledge and assets to connect with someone else who can bolster that. Now we're talking about an ecosystem, right? That's different than me against you. That's different than we live in parallel worlds but never come to meet. That's, hey, how can we take what we do well, you take what you do well, bring them together and find a way to have us all do well. That's ecosystem thinking. And so you have to give hats off there. The second thing that I think was really, really an awesome narrative was that there's a defiance of age. I mean, now I know that's not my typical area, and certainly Dustin and Christina can talk to this and dive into it in detail, I'm sure, at a much higher level than I can. But what we saw yesterday was an outright defiance of aging as we've typically defined it, right? I mean, Tom Brady is 42 years old. And he is commanding, at the highest level in the sport. Bill Belichick is the oldest coach to appear in a Super Bowl. We have to respect that for what it is. Now, I've heard this concept thrown around. I was at a conference late last year, several months ago. And one of the keynote speakers talked about, super aging. This idea of like baby boomers and that generation, they are leading the way when it comes to this idea of redefining age. And I think we saw it pretty obvious yesterday. Right, we saw the grizzled old commander on the sideline and the aging aging well quarterback find a way to not only be there but win. I mean, that has to speak to us a little bit, and I think it should speak to how we approach a lot of things. We often sort of define things in lifespan blocks, and we've sort of almost put false parameters on that. We talk about the idea that risk starts up at, in the 40s and 50s. Well, yeah, maybe, but really everything we know about risk and health risk has changed in the last 5 years. Risk starts up, as young as 5 years old if you're in the States. Risk starts up as young as, in utero if you live in a socially depressed area. But it also, on the other side, completely changes what we think about aging. 40 is not over the hill. 40 might be just touching your prime, right? And certainly it looked that way last night. I mean, the guy was able to string together another win. Impressive, despite an amazing defensive effort across the ball. Let's talk about another one. Addressing, sort of thorny issues. I think that's another really important narrative when it comes to population health. You clearly noticed, if you paid attention, the NFL trying to do something. Now, I'm not even gonna begin to say they did well enough, or they do enough, or they're doing a good job. I just don't know, so I can't comment on it. But it's clear they made an effort, and it's clear they tried to control the narrative this year. So we know there was a lot of controversy, right, and a lot of social justice, controversy and issues, with Kaepernick and all the, sort of stuff that goes around that. But you saw a real response there. I mean, or at least if it wasn't real, if it was contrived, they certainly put it out front and tried to control the narrative. They tried to understand that when we move a population's thinking, we can maybe move their behavior, right? So they showed a lot of investment that they've tried to make in this area. That is smart population thinking, whether you agree or disagree with where they stand. And please don't get me wrong. I'm sort of neutral, non-judgmental on this. I'm much more in the idea of if you noticed what they did, you would understand the population dynamic, a piece of this. They tried to control the narrative, and they tried to show that they've made progress in this area. That we without admitting guilt, they said, hey, I'm going to go and we're going to make some change. We're going to try to do things. And they showed a lot of the things that they're doing in the community, and there was a lot of connection there. That is a major tactic when it comes to moving the population forward. Now, I don't know that they understand the power that they have, and if they're stepping up and using that power appropriately, I don't know. But I think it's an important thing to at least notice and be aware of. And then the last one I want to say in my last sort of couple minutes here is they clearly understand the concept of we can achieve our mission, but those who we align with are going to have to invest and own some of the result. Right? Like that is a critical factor when it comes to population health and value-based care. So if the world of healthcare is going down this road of value-based care, what does that really mean? It means at-risk contracting, right? Like that's what it means. I mean, let's pull the veil back and really talk about what it is. It means you're going to have to deliver the goods if you want to get paid. Like there's no, in the future someday, maybe not in the immediate future, but in the future someday, you don't get paid as well if you don't produce a quality product. Now, healthcare is the only place where we've all been able to skirt that for a very long time, right? Like we've been able to say, well, I get whether or not I do well. Looks like I had a little pause in my thing there. Hopefully it stuck through. I get paid for what I do. That's kind of where we've always been. That's fee for service. I build a code, I get paid. I build a code, I get paid. It doesn't matter if I'm good at it. It just means I build a code, I get paid. Oh, how tedious. All right. Now it's idea of value-based, right? Now the concept of I get paid based on the outcome. So that's at-risk contract. That is where the world of population health is and where it's going. And that's why we're all sort of struggling with this. And that's why, people who don't learn how to do it soon are going to be in a bad spot soon enough. That's without a question. If you don't learn how to produce the result that the world values, unfortunately, you just simply aren't going to get paid or not going to get paid enough. And that's going to be problematic. All right, so I don't know. It looks like I'm having some kind of a Wi-Fi issue. I don't think I can flip it over at this point. Hopefully, we'll just sort of wrap it up there. But that's, I think, something that they have clearly put it together that that the platform that then we can all deliver. What we do know is this: that platform is big. That play, it's put some of your own self on the line, put things at risk. All right, I don't know. My phone is going absolutely bonkers and berserk here. It looks like we're having all sorts of connectivity issues. We only had a couple minutes left anyway. I'm going to leave it there. So hopefully that gets you thinking, right? Like that's my goal. When I get on here, my goal is to get you thinking. It's to get you to understand and realize that the world that we're in is changing, that there are lessons all around us if we pay attention to them, and that some people have this a little more dialed in, and we can learn and then apply that into our own world. That's sort of my goal getting up here every Monday. My goal is not to give you tactics. If you want tactics, take the course. We're in there. We're diving into that rapidly. The intro course is wrapping up. The next one starts up, I think, in about a month. Allie's course is on its way. I think that's starting up at the end of the month. And Jeremy and Megan's course, same thing. The CERT course kind of started up last night, which means 12 weeks, and then we'll sort of talk about the next one. But that's the point. The point is, if you're seeing these trends, if you're understanding at the high level that there are lots of things going on and lots of things that we need to think about, and you also understand that it's going to take some time to dial in your skill set, that this is not natural for most of us, but that the world is going this way, then I think you kind of get the conclusion. Our goal is to be standing there when the world arrives, not chasing it and hoping to catch up. Change is upon us, right? I mean, if you didn't notice that last night, if you didn't see the changes in the narrative associated with something as stable as the National Football League and the Super Bowl, if you didn't see those, then you missed something really important. And hopefully this brings your attention to it. But understand, change is here. It's all around us, and it's definitely impacting healthcare. So if you want to be there, I mean, thankfully it happens slow. These things do not happen like the flip of a switch. But if you want to be standing there when the world arrives, it's time to start thinking this way. All right, so relevant or irrelevant, I don't know. I don't know the answer in full. I would say there's lots of things that are relevant. There are some things that certainly probably past its prime, but I'll leave it there. All right, it's only Monday. With 9 seconds left, it's only Monday. I hope this gets you thinking, and I hope you continue to explore this way. It's Monday, make it count.